Hello, teachers and staff. My name is Ms. Pagan, and I am a grade 4 remote teacher. I'm also a virtual content specialist. And in this video, I'd like to share with you an adapted launch or a Google Jamboard that can be used for your students to first provide a home language support and to secondly promote discourse using a digital tool. You will notice in this lesson, Unit 6B, Day 7, with the title of Arrays and Equal Groups, that on slide 7, there are the engaging multilingual learners suggestions or recommendations. You will notice on the fourth section that the recommendation is to use the home language as a resource. For this reason, in this Google Jamboard, I have provided a translated introduction or launch. You will also notice that the suggestion is to promote oral discourse and to use digital tools in the home language and English, and to strategically pair students. I'd like for you to consider using the Google Jamboard, especially if you are in a remote setting, to promote discourse, either in English or in Spanish, by pairing the students on one slide. Now, let's go on to the adapted slide. First, I'd like to tell you that this lesson, Module 6B, Day 7, is the title of Use Manipulatives to Create Equal Groups. For this reason, when looking at the introduction or launch, I thought it was very important to provide students with some tools or some manipulatives to complete this launch question. So let's go on to the Google Jamboard. Here is the Google Jamboard. It's an adapted launch slide. You will notice the same features or colors of the launch slide. The task is still the same. However, I've provided some tiles here that students can use as a manipulative to answer this question. Also, students can click on the tile and place it in any area of the Google Jamboard. You will also notice on slide 2 that this Google Jamboard is translated or in the home language of Spanish. My recommendation is to allow students to use either the English or the Spanish slide. You can choose 2 students in advance and strategically pair them on a slide by using the text feature box, placing the text feature, and writing the names of the students on each slide. Let's take a moment to just explore the Google Jamboard and how students can use this to complete the launch or the introduction question. Students can move the tiles and drag them by clicking and dragging into any workspace below. You'll also notice on the left-hand side that there are features of the Google Jamboard. First, students can select to use a pen of any color. There is a marker, there is a highlighter, and there is also a paint or brush. This can be key when students are highlighting the text, circling or underlining quantities or questions when using the 3 reads. Also, students can select to use the erase feature. There is a pointer. You will also notice the sticky note. This is what I use in my own classroom so that students are paired. When they're answering the questions below, instead of using a text box, each student will use a different color sticky note. So students may select to answer a question by writing a repeated number, and then the next students can click or select a different color and write their own repeated numbers. Finally, if students agree or disagree with their partner, they can use a final sticky note to click and say, I agree with, or I disagree with, and write their name. This can promote discourse in a remote setting. So as students place their sticky notes with their name, and then also use accountable talk starters, This can promote discourse in a remote setting or even in a classroom. I like to also tell you that there's a text box feature so students can write and write their name if they feel uncomfortable using a sticky note. And there are also shape features that they can create their own tiles. Finally, teachers, I suggest to use the pointer, which is one of my favorite tools, especially when I'm completing my 3 reads. In my first read, I'll highlight the story elements. In my second read, I'll underline the question or the directions to direct students clearly to these areas. And then I'll circle the quantities. This is a great tool when I'm teaching in a remote setting so that students are able to direct their attention as I'm starting this introduction or launch. Finally, teachers, my suggestion is when placing this task in your Google Classroom, students can select to use the English or the Spanish section. Or you can copy and duplicate this slide so that all students are working on the introduction or launch at the same time. A final tip that I'd like to share with you teachers is when you place this task inside your Google Classroom, which many of us are using Google Classroom in a remote setting. You have 3 features here to view, edit, or copy. When completing a launch at the same time, so that you're able to see students work live, I would suggest to complete the edit file. That way, there are multiple slides. All students are working at the same time, and you can see them working during your live session. If you're not having a live math session, or you would just like to assign this task, choose make a copy for each student. And afterwards, you will be able to review their work. You will also be able to review all students on one slide, even if you choose to make a copy and place it after the live session. Again, I'd like to show you our task today was an adapted introduction or launch. And my focus was to use the home language as a resource and also to create or utilize a digital tool that promotes oral discourse and to strategically pair students. I will be placing this along with the YouTube video. Down below in the description, there will be a link so that you are able to access or make a copy of this Google Jamboard. Again, this is Ms. Pagan, a grade 4 remote teacher and also a virtual content specialist. Feel free to place comments below on this video so that we can best support you as you support your students.